Okay, you all good? Let's do it. Hello and welcome to the B2C Lead Generation Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Daniel Hope. I'm joined by Simon Delaney, who will be the voice of comparative insight from our side of the call. And I feel like today's theme, Simon, may well be of interest to you because it's something you talk about a lot, and that theme is building lead gen brands for brands. Now, can you sort of set out the idea out for people listening a little bit more?
So I guess it's just the brands that would typically outsource lead generation are just doing the lead generation for themselves. So, or creating the lead generation to the assets that they own, I should say. So not necessarily doing it for themselves, which means that the relationship with the prospects starts right at the beginning of the first ad or first touch that they've had with that brand. So that's what I'm really keen to explore, is how that sort of measures and works with someone that does it for brands.
Yeah, well, I think we've got a guest who's, he does this in a specific vertical, but I feel like this idea can be explored, the sort of the fundamentals of it can be explored in pretty much any vertical. It's just that he happens to have knowledge in this one. But hopefully people listening will get a lot from him and stuff they can apply to their own lead gen moving forwards, and also look at stuff from, the brand side of it and how they can build their own relationships in that way. Cool, let's do it. Let's get him in. And we're joined today by Alex Curtis. Thank you for giving us your time, Alex.
No, you're welcome. Thanks for inviting me on. Appreciate it.
No, we're happy you're here. You run the Event Advisors Assemble pod, which is one of the coolest names for a podcast I've heard. We're fans of
the coolest, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've not heard all podcasts, to be fair, but definitely the ones that definitely the financial industry is smashing it. I'll give you that.
It didn't used to be called that, though, did it?
No, that's right. Yeah, we did we had the Ron Seal name of lead generation for financial services before, which is literally. I think that helped though. Do you know what? Everyone I know that set up a podcast has rebranded after maybe like a year or two, and you can have more of a sort of a branded name rather than this is what it is sort of thing as you get known a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a good point. We very imaginatively went for B2C lead generation. We've literally said exactly what it does, but I think it's kind of like a search thing.
Exactly.
We had kind of cool names we kind of came up with, but I was going to search for that until, like I say, But we did try and I did try to do a logo that was based on Run DMC. Their logo, and I was like, right, that's an injection of cool we can put into it.
Yeah, nice.
So people listen, Alex, you're the founder of the Lead Engine.
That's right, yeah.
And I was looking at the website earlier, and I'm actually, we're doing the website headline for ours at the moment. So I was like, I'm really interested in what people put for that. The headline on your site reads, "We turn tumbleweed websites into lead generating machines for financial services businesses." I thought it was a cool intro, but could you explain kind of what that means to people listening?
Yeah, I think that, well, our majority of our clients are mortgage businesses, mortgage brokers, mortgage advice firms, and pretty much all of them are like tumbleweed and nothing happens because they all, the thing is with the mortgage industries, there's so many different specific situations and specific problems that people have. But all the broker websites have I've got a first time buyer page, I've got a remortgage page, I've got a buy to let page, and I've got a protection page, and that's it. And so those pages are competing with the banks. They're never going to rank for first time buyer mortgage, HSBC, Barclays, that way. So they just don't get any traffic. And then traditionally, they've loosened it a little bit, but traditionally they didn't do much on social media. So they were having these websites and no one was going to. It was tumbleweed. So we kind of say there's three things that we put into every website. It's kind of like everyone loves a specialist. People buy from people, and if you give information without expectation of a sale, so if you try and educate rather than sell, you'll get inquiries. And that probably took me about 10-15 years to realize, because you kind of think, if I'm position one on Google, I'll get traffic and leads. I think it was like matching the kind of like the psychology with the technology, if you know what I mean. So I guess that's where it comes from. It's like we've taken clients from having no traffic to getting, hundreds of inquiries a month and not having to pay for that traffic. So I can't remember why I said I didn't want to I didn't want a Ron Seal headline. I always think with headlines, if something's a little bit different, they'll read it and they'll read further down.
Yeah.
But my website's terrible at the minute. I need to. It's like the cobbler's son's shoes. I've not touched it.
It's interesting that we were talking about the Ron Seal thing, because just going back to the B2C lead gen thing, do you remember the other logo we were going to use, Daniel, that had? We went through a few with like Kez doing B2C lead gen and Winston Churchill doing it as well. And sent it to a few people.
Watching.
Simon's holding two fingers up.
And
I sent it to a few people. I said, "What do you think when you said that?" I put that, and they said, "I think it means fuck off B2C lead gen." So we were like, "Well, we can't use that."
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of like cool ways to sort of position the two signs. Like, what can I do with that?
So do you know when you're changing those pages, do you combine them all into one then, or do you keep that separation between the different services?
Is this for the clients' websites? Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of like pages rank on Google, not websites. So it's, if someone's searching for, my favorite niche is Japanese knotweed mortgage, which is essentially where someone's found, they've had a survey on their property, found they've got Japanese knotweed, and they're most likely been declined. So it's the best page on Google from a trusted source is gonna rank, not the homepage, if you see what I mean. So you could be Joe Blogs Mortgages and have a really sort of in-depth explanation into that problem, the Japanese knotweed issue, and that could rank, not the website. Yeah, so we create a lot of content, and it's specific problem, specific solution, specific page for that problem solution, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've touched on a few already, but just generally, kind of for people listening, what are some of the key ways you do try and optimize a page, other than kind of carving out these niches? Is there stuff in the design of it, or is it all through kind of SEO?
Yeah. So I mean, we've tested kind of like there's so many like the kind of almost the layout of those, we call them secondary pages, like the product content pages. We've tested so many things like chatbots, like type forms, like big old application forms. So we've tested like everything, and it's always the simplest things work. So we just ask, we don't even put a title at the top of the form. So on those pages, you'll have the hero section, you sort of underneath your menu, you've got like your big image and your headline. Yeah. And then we'll just put a form on the right hand side. It's literally just name, email, phone, message, submit. So we don't have a title like request a call back or get a, this, that. We leave it open-ended so that people unpack their problem in the message box. So just adding too much stuff in the form could put people off, because people can't be bothered. Least resistance as possible. And then some people don't want to call back. They just want to send their problem and it's dealt with. It's out of their mind. Now they've sent it to an expert, but they will accept a callback, if that kind of makes sense. It's the way our brains kind of work, if that makes any sense. So yeah, there's so many little quirks with just the layout and the form and the way you're capturing data. And then just little things like your Trustpilot or your Google reviews.
Yeah, me and Simon, we do landing pages, and we work with people who do landing pages, and we kind of refer to it as conversion principles. And often what that means is, it's not always design level. A designer hates it a lot of the time. We work with great designers, which are just like, this is disgusting. I'm like, when you test it against these little conversion principles, the results are incredible. We did one on our own pages for Databolt, and all I did was add like a drop shadow onto a button, like a submit button, and within it was like a 10% increase just on that little, especially just on that one little thing. So these marginal gains, I think, are really fascinating, that you can apply all over the page and then lead to a big result overall.
Absolutely. And then the more traffic you get, those, the 1%, 2% changes make a massive difference. But
I think the copy as well is key, right?
Absolutely.
The design's sort of one thing. And this is what some people can neglect, I always think, is that they'll focus on stuff, and really it's that headline that's actually going to make that person convert. And because they've got a lot of intent already, right, if they're coming through PPC. And so as long as that message, we help you with your Japanese knotweed, they'll be like, oh, great.
And then I started off doing a lot of design and I hated it. I remember when clients didn't like the look of something, and I was so focused on the wrong things earlier in my career. On the looks of it, it's not that important, but yeah, definitely the content. We've done like quite a few surveys with consumers, and one of the quotes that I always remember a lot of, quite a few people said, there was enough content to make me feel comfortable enough to call. So just because they're like a broker and they're qualified and they do, if we go back to the Japanese knotweed, just because they do the Japanese knotweed, if there's not enough there, they feel kind of like, to be able to speak to an expert, they feel like they need to know something. And I always find that with my clients as well, they often apologize for not knowing about marketing, and I'm like, well, you don't need to. You're a mortgage broker, like you're not supposed to. It's not, don't apologize to me but they think that, and the same goes with the clients get it as well. People say, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't know about mortgages. Like, it's weird how we think that we should know, but if that kind of makes any sense. So giving them that knowledge, and I said at the beginning, giving, like, educating and kind of saying that we're giving information without expectation of the sale. If you think, oh, I'm not using this page to convert, I'm using this to help someone, whether they call me or not, I just want to help them. And then, ironically, if that's the right word, you will get more inquiries, because people, it's trust that people are they're looking for someone that they trust to do business with.
And so do you have to work quite closely with the clients on the follow-up to the leads as well? Do you get involved in like post-lead collection, or is it then just left to them? Or
yeah, not so much really, not so much. Yeah, some of them we do, but no, often, and what we find actually when these kind of leads are coming through, and we also do things like we do podcast interviews with our clients as well. So if we, again, going back to the Japanese knotweed thing, if we had a podcast episode all about that specific subject, they can get to know the advisor a little bit more, and we find the contact rates is like so much higher. So there's not that need for that kind of, because it is the I think our contact rates are like 95% or something like that. Whereas if they're buying leads, it's, well less than half that. So often they don't need that. But I guess some of them have things in place for people that come to them early on in the buying cycles. They're not ready to have a mortgage in place for another 6 months or something. But we don't often get involved in that as much as we do getting, I suppose our job really is to get that initial conversation, have that spark, build that relationship a little bit, and make it easy enough for them to then develop that.
And how does it work in terms of the sites that you develop? They host it, or do you host it? Or
we host it, yeah. It's just some of them have got their own hosting, but a lot of the times they've got nothing, or they've got rubbish hosting. So we just make sure we want it to be as quick as possible. So we don't like, there's no like extra fees or anything for that kind of stuff. But so we've got a bit of a beast of a server, and the sites are on there. And then just security wise as well, when you look at how many people are trying to hack your website, it's ridiculous. So it's just easier if we just follow that process and make sure it's secure and it's fast.
It's like a service in itself, right? To prevent hacking as well. Because I've seen
I know. Yeah, literally. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. If you saw like how many times people are trying to log into your WordPress account, you wouldn't sleep probably.
So, I mean, you mentioned, results for like the organic search stuff, but I guess you do paid search too. And is you who drives the traffic, or do you have other ways of driving traffic, or any other people doing it for you? Or
yeah, so we do everything for our clients in that kind of respect. And I suppose our goal is for them to not have to spend money on ads if they don't want to. So that's why our focus is on the organic side. Like, ideally, for us, that we want to get them, as profitable as possible, so they don't need to spend. But some of them still do. Some of them, always want to grow. They always want to hire more advisors, so they're always kind of spending. And I just did a podcast episode with a mortgage broker, and he was like saying he's always going to spend money on the ads. He always find people that clicking on the ads are the ones where they're ready to go right now. They've got the documents ready, and whereas sometimes when the ones that click lower down, they're a bit more early on. So he kind of likes having those. But we find Google Ads is the best quality, and we did a lot with Facebook ads. Must be like a couple of years ago. Is it a year? Not last November, the November before. And Facebook changed the size of we used to use the remortgage audience on Facebook quite a lot. and it was around sort of 300,000 people in it, and it doubled overnight. So they just changed the parameters of what makes you interested in remortgaging, and it just halved the quality of it, if that kind of makes sense. It was looser, and it was okay, but it was still quite hit and miss anyway. So it went from being acceptable to 70% of clients to unacceptable to 100% of clients. And so when we really doubled down on the SEO side of things, and because we always knew Google was better, it was just more, Google ads was more expensive. But then if you're getting the free traffic, you're not paying for it. So you just got to go through the pain and the time of ranking. And we just set the expectations now that we'll run ads at the beginning, but really profitability is going to come when we get the organic stuff coming through.
So how do you handle it when you've got two clients doing the same thing in the same areas, if you're doing SEO? Or do you focus on like regional stuff so you can hit it that way?
Yeah, so the great thing about a lot of the mortgage stuff is Google sees it as like a local service. So there are lots of local results. I've only had to have the conversation once, I think, where someone was literally in the same town. And I spoke to my existing client first, and he was going more after like product focused stuff. So he was fine with it. And I spoke to the new one and he was fine. So we haven't got like exclusivity. We just have like a bit of a common sense approach. But because of the breadth of kind of keywords and the localized kind of side of it, we'll probably get to a point of saturation, I would have thought. But then there's things like equity release as well, whereas now sort of like Google Maps is popping up a bit more now for equity release. That's becoming more sort of localized, which would be amazing because that's kind of more profitable for advisors as a product. So we'll do that. But yeah, it's a weird one. It does come up a lot. Clients do ask, but once they kind of understand the opportunities, and we just be honest with them, and if they don't want to do it,
there's tons of ads running on that sort of stuff as well, right? So there's like either brands or like national brands or lead generators running on like if you put equity release in.
Oh yeah, God, yeah, equity release it's ridiculous. Yeah,
there must be 4 or 5 ads, every page.
Yeah, pretty much. Almost every financial service, because a lot of them don't know how to do SEO, so they'll pay for the traffic and it's profitable for them. So yes, it's equity release is saturated, especially by the lead gen companies, and some of the this is why we don't sell leads. I hate this idea of consumer, I hate the idea of like someone like my mum. She's 70 something. She's googling equity release, and then they're advertising a calculator. I'm doing bunny ears for people listening. And all they're doing is they're not giving a calculation. They're selling my mum's data to someone. And that, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear, but it pisses me off.
I think I already have, so unless we edit it out.
Yeah. I just think that I don't like it. And then also just I love our relationship with our clients, because we work on this sort of retainer basis. We're sort of working with them in partnership, whereas I think if we were selling leads, it would just be like really transactional. They would like, oh, what's your order this month? I'll buy 1,000 of these, and I don't know. I just don't like the whole idea of selling leads. Not that it, but yeah, I'm just not comfortable with it, so we don't do that. But
I think when you're doing like SEO and stuff like that, you can't really. Well, you could work on a lead gen basis, but it'd be quite difficult, I think, because it's a much more long tail approach where it needs a much more in-depth relationship, doesn't it?
I think there probably are some lead gen sites that do organic as well, but I thought, I just don't like this idea of, and then also like we're talking about the contact rates earlier, like why would you pay 50 quid plus for someone's data who doesn't know who you are? What? Why would you do I don't understand. But then I guess for a lot of that, I do understand it, because they don't realise that they can do it themselves. Yeah, I suppose is the other thing. If that's traditionally what the industry has always done, and then I suppose the benefit is how much a lead's going to cost you. Whereas what we do, I'm kind of saying maybe in 6 months you'll get something organic. You'll have to pay ads, and I can't give you an exact figure. I can see how that's not attractive. And just someone saying, here you go, 25, 30 quid, you'll get the, and then I do understand it, but the other side of it, I don't.
I think you're right with the brand thing, because I mean, it's slightly different. I guess with yours, they don't actually know the brand they're going to click on once they click on like an SEO ad. They just go for like the highest intent that matches their thought processes from what they've typed in, right?
I suppose, yeah, they probably. I mean, a lot of the time on the SEO, you will have the brand name on the thing, but they probably would never heard of the brand before. So part of the job is they're getting to know that. But when they choose to call and they choose to leave their details, they know exactly who they're going to speak to, and if they've listened to the podcast, and then they'll know the advisor by name. So they'll be like, I'm going to speak to Joanne from Joe Blogs Mortgages, and I know what they sound like. And then when I have that phone call, something goes off in my brain that I feel comfortable because I've already heard this person.
Could work the opposite way if they've got a really bad voice, right? Like a voice box, and I'm not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But what you find, with the with mortgage brokers, like all of them, they're so like passionate about what they do. Like they come across really well in the podcast, and they can talk for ages about it. So it's. Yeah, but we've never had an occasion where we've had to say, I'm not sure about this person. They might actually be putting people off. But then I guess if they're like that, they'd be putting people off in real life and not doing any business anyway. So
it's funny you mentioned about the brands doing their own lead gen, because I've thought the same thing, which is effectively, if the brand has their own relationships, imagine you're doing paid media as well. So it could be on Facebook, it could be PPC. You own the sort of relationship from the beginning with the prospect, right? So when they see the ad, they already know who it is. When they read a landing page or website, they know who it is. And it has this single voice that sort of translates across. They go into a call center or they get called, whatever it is. And there's a sort of seamless link behind that entire process, where there's one message, one position, everything. And can lead generators lose that? Because they have their own motivation, which is effectively to create a lead.
Yeah, for the cheapest amount. Yeah,
which is then different to potentially what the brand is thinking.
I'm kind of getting the impression that maybe you operate slightly differently to the others in the industry. I don't know. I'm getting the impression maybe you're on a sort of working on a different level to other people. And do you think there are kind of existing problems within lead gen, within the financial industry that they're facing, and that's why you're doing it slightly differently?
I think definitely when we entered it, there was like not really anyone doing anything on social. And then I think everyone sort of used compliance as an excuse that you've got to go for this extra layer of, and it is like SEO for any industry is like hard work. It is effort. You've got to create a lot of content. Are we unique? I don't really think about what everyone else is doing, which sounds ridiculous. We just do our thing, if that makes sense. But yeah, I suppose we picked it as I fell into it by accident, I guess. I started doing some an agency that I worked for. One of our clients was the Money Shop. They were a payday loan lender. So we did all their marketing, and you got to understand what FCA, regulations and things like that. And then because I had that on my CV when I left there, and then there was like a pensions company wanted to work with me, and then I got to learn more about the industry, and then I started working, doing stuff in car finance and mortgages. So I picked it, I guess, because people just saw that I had experience in it, did it. I liked it because it wasn't like manufacturing. They didn't need to buy a bigger machine. They just needed to hire another advisor, another laptop, and they could grow quite quickly. And I liked it because people search it a lot. But I guess, and I think there are a few firms that do like SEO really well. And I think there's definitely, there's a guy, I think he's like the Leeds money man, the Manchester money man. He's using his personal brand. He's investing a lot in SEO. And I think he's done that without any sort of interaction with us. I think people are doing it. So I don't think what we offer is like totally unique. But I think the biggest difference for me, I think, compared to a lot of agencies is in my early career, I always just looked at the numbers and the stats, and I didn't think about the people. I always saw the person on the other end of the screen clicking as a number rather than as a human, and think about what they want and need, like, and emotionally, and to start reading a lot of psychology books, and then really thinking about what people actually want. and it's like all the technical stuff is great, and that will get you traffic, but it won't get you inquiries, and won't build relationships. And I think that's one thing for me that I felt was different from my sort of training when I worked for other people in the industry, like in the marketing industry, if you like, was really understanding that a lot of it is, you could have a website with no design on it and just a video, and you could build a connection with someone just by talking to them without anything else, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. It's interesting. We have the same sort of philosophy when it comes to lead gen as well. Is like the priority needs to be on the prospect, or I guess like if you're ever in doubt, align yourself with the prospect.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's Nigel from Lead Tech said something to me that always resonated with me, which was I have two clients, which is the client and the prospect. It's the way to always look at it. And I think is that for me is when you speak to a lot of people that have been in sort of lead gen marketing and direct marketing to people, and they've done it like in the correct way where they're trying to like genuinely help and make a difference. They always come back to that point is basically you've got to do what's going to help the prospect, the people. Because if you don't, they're the leads. They're the ones that are actually making all this stuff happen.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to do, especially when it's really hard to not sell yourself or not sell when you desperately need to. Like if you're early days when you're not getting much inquiries through, but the minute you do start just trying to help people and you're not doing it for a pitch, you're like, I found out this thing, this could help a load of people in their money, and you just keep giving, then it just comes back. It feels naive, definitely feels naive, but I just found it works really well. Everything you do is for them, and you get it back in return. But you've got to do it without trying to. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I think the minute people realize you're doing a podcast to make money, or you're doing a video just to sell something, I think you kind of lose a bit of like, am I actually going to trust this person?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what you mentioned about the podcast a few minutes ago, which was the people that are going to become leads also listen to the podcast.
Yeah, so for clients, we do we've got a mortgage protection podcast, which we interview. So if you were my client, and you were a mortgage broker, we would if we go back to we want to get leads for Japanese knotweed, we'd have an episode on that, and that would form the content of that page, and we'd want people to listen to that and get to know the advisor and understand what their options are from that podcast episode, and if they wanted to go away and do it themselves. But the reason they listen to that is like, well, I could go away and do it myself, or if I want a professional to do it, I'll get that person to do it.
That's such a great idea. I've never thought of it in that way. But yeah,
it's just a YouTube. It's like a YouTube video without a video.
Yeah, and now you've said it, you can see the trust that would generate.
Yeah, exactly. You're just why would they choose anyone else? This person's an expert and has done it loads of times already. Sounds like a really nice person. Sounds like they want to help me. Sounds like they've helped loads of other people. And I've got to. I'm not ringing up a stranger. I'm ringing up someone that I know. It just makes people feel more comfortable.
So why would you do that instead of videos? Is it just a production thing?
Just because you can't get brokers to do video. Spent years trying to get them to do videos. Also, I think as well podcasts feel awkward enough if you've not done it before, but like videos, I think people like tense up, and then they kind of, and then it becomes a bit robotic, and then you lose a bit of the naturalness, if you like. Whereas if you get them in the zone that it's like, look, let's just treat this like I'm a client on the phone, just do, speak to me how you would a client. And they always come across better on audio than on video. And then it's less editing time. It's just much easier process. We just found it as a process that it works much, much better. And they come across better, and we just get a better results from it.
And then that forms the content for advisors to send as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's been refreshing talking to you about it, and I think it's something great for brands, lead buyers to think about. Is how much lead generation could I do, outside of either the leads I'm buying in or whatever. Because I believe the same thing is, and it also gets past this thing of like marketing to leads, I think, as well, which is, if the lead generator is buying them, they tend to just put the lead in, it goes into sales, and it just gets lost. This is why I was thinking about the marketing with you. But no, thank you. That's been really brilliant, getting the insights and stuff from you of how lead engine works.
You're listening to the B2C Lead Generation podcast, and now it's time for the post-chat rundown. It's pretty simple. We talk through the conversation, assess what we've learned from our guest, and pull out the key ideas for you, the stuff we think can make a real difference to your lead gen. That was Alex Curtis from the Lead Engine and the Advisors Assemble podcast. And yeah, I really enjoyed speaking to him, Simon. He was a really relaxed guy, really informative. You can tell he's done a lot more podcasting than us because he was just so like comfortable in what he was doing. Hopefully we'll get to that point. But, what did you think of the stuff he was saying though?
Firstly on that point, it's nice. He was very calm. Like, I speak to business owners all the time, and we speak to people doing podcasts, and there can always be an element of business owners and stuff like that it's not anxiety, but it's like they're not achieved what they want. I don't know if he's achieved what he wants, but he definitely feels calm and secure about what he has achieved, which was nice. In terms of what he said, there was one thing that suddenly resonated with me, which was he works on retainers for his clients, and they effectively changed their lead gen capture process or collection process, let's use that word, and drive traffic for them locally, typically via SEO. And what I think was interesting is that by working on a retainer, he's removed the need for the lead engine to go after leads. What he's actually trying to get his clients is sales. And so some of the stuff that we see from lead generators on landing pages, the sort of psychological tricks, I guess, to get high conversions, he doesn't necessarily need to do 100% because he's working on a retainer, not a cost per lead. So he's not actually trying to generate as many leads as he needs to for the spend that he's done, or the output from the SEO and the articles they've written, whatever else. He's just trying to get sales for his clients. So I imagine his conversion rates are very, very high. There won't be many leads, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter because they're high quality and they're going after it. It's a really interesting difference to the way that a lot of lead generation runs. I think talking to Alex was great, and the stuff about content was really interesting. That side of it, and content as it's similar to the stuff we talked about with Joe in the first podcast about pre-qualifying, and it's like the intent, and it's like making sure people who come in as leads, and they've read a lot of content, or even a niche particularly about content, they're qualified, their intent's there. Thanks for listening to the B2C Lead Generation podcast, the show for serious lead generators. Be sure to hit subscribe to hear more from those at the very cutting edge of the lead gen world.